Hello again and welcome to another episode of Engine Talk. Is anybody actually getting sick of Engine Talk videos yet? I have to ask myself that, and sometimes I think, yes I am, and other times I'm like, how can I ever get tired of talking about engines? But it is middle of March and I would like to start getting outside and running engines. Unfortunately, that's just not happening. We had one day of 67 degrees and then now we are plunged back into winter, and today the wind is howling and it's hitting gusts of up to 50 miles an hour, and we're expecting a big major snowstorm, the biggest snowstorm in a long time over the weekend. So with that said, I'm back here on the bench doing more Engine Talk videos. So this is actually an Engine Talk video, and these are things I drove down south last night to get for a part of a Facebook Marketplace deal. And I thought they were rather interesting, and I've also discovered some other interesting things pertaining to one of these engines that I'm going to share with you. So first, let's just take some of these things off the table and talk about this. So this is one of the items I got scored last night, and it was a 7M OS 7M carb. One of these things that's highly sought after. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that because the price was unbelievable, and it's like, how can you ever go wrong getting a 7M carb? However, there are two little issues with this 7M carb that were kind of not a big deal, but they're things that can be noted. And the first is that on the high-speed needle, the little ratcheting mechanism is not there. Not a big deal. I think I've got several of these from other engines or in packages that'll probably fit. That's probably a universal thing, so that's not a big deal. Can anybody tell me what else they see here that is not necessarily correct? Right here, this screw. So this screw is long, too long, it's not correct, and it's glued in place. So this is that, I think it's just a rotor stop screw is what they call it. I was looking to try to find out exactly what the terminology was, but this is supposed to be some really small flush screw that just goes in there that just acts as a rotor guide or rotor stop. I'm torn between whether I'm going to take this thing out, break loose this glue, and just cut this head down, or cut this screw down, because I looked and I was unable to find the exact screw, because it's like a hex head screw with a slot in it or something like that. I mean, this is functional. It's doing its job, and quite honestly, I'm not sure why you need that anyway when you've got the throttle stop assembly screw also holding the barrel in place. But it's just one of those things I noticed. I was like, that's kind of not so cool. But anyway, so OS 7M carb, I've got one available. Don't know what to do with it. If anybody's looking for one, let me know. So the next thing here is this little guy. This is a Can-B 15. I think it's a, I don't know, I don't recall the exact designation now. I don't have my book open. But this is a little rear exhaust or rear intake engine. This is the second variation. They made two of these, and the first one had like a Can-B carb on it. The second iteration has a Perry carb on it, which is what this one has on it. I don't know. I just saw this, and this guy was offering this to me for a really good deal. I was like, I'll take it. It's a cool little engine. I don't know if I've ever had one of these before or not, but you can see this thing dates back to like 71, 72, 1971, 1972, and it doesn't have an exhaust. It just has that little exhaust baffle. It doesn't smell like it's ever been run, but if it was run, I'm sure it was. That was many years ago. But it's a cute little engine. Again, it's one of those things. I'm not usually a super huge fan of these small engines, but this one was cool, and we'll see what happens with it. Again, it's one of those things where, if somebody's really goo-goo over this thing and you want it, send me an email. Okay, so the next thing here is these items. Let me move these off to the side. So I was enamored with this HP 40F Gold Cup engine. And I was enamored with it, and it was in the ad, it had this Semco flow through exhaust on it, which I wasn't super thrilled about that. I've never actually run one of these Semco exhausts, I don't believe, and I know people have really high opinions of them, but it just doesn't really look all that great with it. But anyway, so I was looking at this, and this fellow Chuck had several other engines, and I was looking at this closely, and this one came with a box, and it was just kind of laying there, and I took opened up the box, and I went to grab, because I went to grab underneath the foam, and Chuck's like, what are you doing? I said, you always look under the foam. You always look at the bottom of a box to see what's there. So I did it, and lo and behold, there's nothing there now, but this is what was there. A whole bunch of screws. There's a whole bunch of screws. In fact, had been in there for a while. They had embedding marks in the foam. And there was this high-speed needle for some old engine. So it's like, yeah, I'll take that, because who can never have enough screws? So, and it is the period correct, or the correct box for this engine. Unfortunately, it didn't come with the instructions or anything. But so I was looking at this engine. Let me throw these screws in here. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, this is just, I've had one of these before, and I don't recall if I ran it or not. So I started looking, and it came like this, and it has this pericarb on here. And I'm like, yeah. So I started looking at some of his other boxes, and I happened to find these two things. And I was like, holy crap. Can I get these in addition? He's like, yeah, why? And I was like, because this is the carb. This is the HB carb that should be on this engine. That's why I want it, because that's the proper carb for this engine. So I promptly took the pericarb off, put this correct HP carb on here, and in another box there with that carb was this carb, which is yet another HP carb. This is for the original HP40F. This is the HP40F Gold Cup. This was from the HP40F engine. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. So we're like, cool. I got this nice little engine and all these carbs. And then I started looking at this again. And I'm like, something looks strange about this. So another friend of mine, and I've had this engine for many months now, I haven't done anything with it yet. Really awesome man, friend Jim, sent me this. An HP20 Gold Cup. Now this is a 20 Gold Cup, keep in mind. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, you know what? I wonder if one of these carbs would fit on this engine. And this is where I found some very, very interesting information. If you look, maybe I can zoom in here so it's a little bit easier to see, and as long as I can keep things in frame. Look very closely at these two engines. You see any like major differences? I see some really major differences. This is half the displacement, but look at the front of this engine here compared to the front of this engine here. They have vastly different size ball bearings in the front. Vastly. Here's a better way to look at it. This, I believe, is an R6 bearing, which is a pretty standard front bearing for 40 size engines up to maybe 60, and it's in a 20. And look at this. This is an R4 bearing. It's a really small thing. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting that the 40 size has so much smaller bearings. So that's not even the most interesting part. The next most interesting part that I thought was highly interesting was that I was like, oh, cool, maybe I can use this carb on this engine. Guess, oh, not that engine, on the 20 engine. Or one of these carbs so I can have HP carbs. Guess again, dude. Not even close. The carb opening for the 40 size engine is smaller than the carb opening for the 20 by a long shot. I mean, it's like not even close. So you got these two 40 size carbs HP 40 carbs that don't even come close to fitting on this HP 20. So it's like, wow, that's interesting. So, and you can see, I think you can pretty much see the difference in, you can't really see it. It's a millimeter at least, or two, difference between the OD of the 20 size, the carb, the Perry carb that was on this 20 size engine, as opposed to the one that's in the 40. And I was like, wow, that's just, I mean, look at here. Look at that. You can just see a big difference in the hole right there. So it's like, wow. So I thought that was very curious. So I don't know. I don't know what that means now. It just is interesting that this has such smaller bearings and smaller carb. And I wonder if the throat on the carb is even... I don't know. It's hard to tell with them being dark like this. But anyway, just some interesting things that I found out about all of these items that I got. And I don't know. It's cool. They're cool, and we'll see what happens. So obviously, when I go to run this engine, I'll be running it with its correct carb. And I'd really like to find the HP carb that goes with this. So here's the other thing. One last thing with this particular HP engine is that it looks like it's pretty standard 40 size outlet here, because I've got two different exhausts that could go on. So it's fairly standard. Here's an Irvine exhaust that came off an Irvine 40 engine, and it looks like it's a standard kind of, I call these FSR exhausts, just because they go in and the screw comes in this way, like they did on the OS FSR series engines, as opposed to going through this way. So, because there's no through holes on that side. So it looks like these 40 size FSR carbs, or exhausts, are probably a direct bolt-in fit, which is cool. Here's a 743, OS 743 carb. That's a standard 40 FSR carb, and it looks like that's a pretty much a perfect fit. Now obviously this doesn't look right, and of course this isn't just a paint job. This is a different style of coating, so it's not really black, and it's kind of more of a brown type of thing. I think they call it thermix coating, something like that. But anyway, I just thought I'd share these things with you because I found them interesting. And it's got, I don't know if these are serial numbers on here or what, but that is my latest Facebook Marketplace haul.